Can we have the nominating officer to report, please?
This nomination of this person.
You
You go to here actually. This works. Yeah, it's working. Yeah, got it working fine.
Morning conference, C.Hurly, the acting nominating officer. Hopefully you will have seen my report on the internal elections, which has been posted on the website for a few days now. Just to let you have some figures, there were a total of 478 members who voted in the elections, out of a total of 1,367 who were eligible to vote. That gives a turnout of 35%, which I think is quite reasonable. A number of the nominations do need to be reopened as there were not enough candidates, and I'll explain those in a moment. Also, the last Transitional National Council agreed that the Disputes Committee election would also be reopened with one additional candidate. On the issue of the Constitution and whether 2 or 20 nominations were needed, I have provided a detailed explanation in my report, in my written report. The Constitution, as published on the website, is the one which has been carefully considered by the Standing Orders Committee and the conveners of the Constitution Committee, who are responsible for the Constitution. It has been used by the Transitional National Council and all bodies, including branches. I therefore recommend that you accept my report. If you do that, then I will then read out the election results.
Okay.
If you don't, I won't.
Blackmail.
No,
Yeah.
no one wants to raise any issues on that, yeah?
Point of clarification. Nick Rack, Southwark Branch. Point of clarification, Chris.
There you go.
Nick Rack, Southwark Branch. Just a point of clarification, please, Chris. When you say that some of the elections will have to be reopened, does that mean the entire vote? Because it would seem to me that those candidates that had their nominations in are elected. Is my understanding correct? So it's the remaining positions that are reopened.
Yes, that's correct. Apart from the Disputes Committee, where the whole election will be rerun because of the one additional candidate. That is correct.
I would ask comrades to keep their points brief because we are eating into the bedtime.
I'd actually like to speak against voting in favour of Chris's report. Sorry, Chris. Mark Franz from Worcestershire and Herefordshire Left Unity. There was a tremendous amount of work put into organising the internal elections, and hats off to Guy, Chris and everybody else who contributed to that. However, we have had a big problem. It's always going to be teething problems. There's always going to be issues of lack of communication. We're a new organisation. But I'd just simply like to say there's no reason why we can't have the results of the election we've just had. There's also no reason why this conference, as a sovereign body, can't vote to rerun all the elections again. The officers, disputes, appeals, direct elected section and everything. Because that would also empower the 200 people who've joined in the past 48 hours to participate in electing our leadership for the coming year. So I'd like to move a vote against the nominating officer's report and put the proposal to conference that we rerun all of the internal elections to ensure that we have a democratically elected leadership, and hopefully we'll get a bigger turnout, better than 35% of our membership.
Okay, I think the way to go on this would be to take a seconder for that proposition, take that first. This is not for the report, that is for the proposal that's just been made from the floor. Is there a seconder from the floor for that proposal? To basically redo the elections?
No.
That's seconded, okay. Well, we need to put that to the vote. All those in favour of
Rerunning the whole election.
you're rerunning the whole election, basically. All those in favour, please show. All those against?
Slaughtered.
That's overwhelmingly defeated, comrades. So it's just a case of straightforwardly putting the nominating officer's report. All those in favour of the nominating officer's report? All those against? That's overwhelmingly carried.
Pete.
Thank you, Chair. Now that the report has been accepted, I shall read the election results. First of all, for the officers, National Secretary Kate Hudson, National Treasurer Andrew Bergin, Trade Union Officer, a job share Tim Nelson and Oliver New, the 4 principal speakers, Felicity Dowling, Salman Shaheen, Pete Green and Bianca Todd, Membership and Internal Communications Officer Terry Conway, Media Officer Tom Walker, Nominating Officer Chris Hurley. I think I might stand down actually after all this. The Appeals Committee, we have 1 person elected, that's James Nonn, but that election will need to be reopened. The South East, we have 4 people elected, Anna Bluston, Colin Piper, Ben Lucas and Mark Findlay. There are 6 places in total, so we'll need to reopen the election for 2 women from the South East. I should say also as well, we have to reopen for the North East, Scotland, the South West, all need to be reopened as nobody stood. So I'd encourage people in those areas to stand. Yorkshire and Humber, we have the winners are Menally Griffiths and Jeff Halliday. The election will need to be reopened for 1 further woman. For the West Midlands, the winner was Darren McCourt, and that will need to be reopened for 2 women's places. For Wales, and I know it's not a region, I apologise for calling it one if I did, the winners are Kat Burden Manley and Andy Hewitt. For the North West, the winner was Laura Cockett. The election will need to be reopened as there are 5 seats available. And for London, I'll leave this one till last, there were 10 seats in total. We have 2 women and 5 men elected. The 2 women are Kathy Lowe and Rachel Archer. The 5 men are Doug Thorpe, Terry Stewart, Simon Hardy, Dave Stockton and Fred LaPlatte. There are 10 seats in total, so the London election will need to reopen looking for 3 additional women. Actually, it wasn't last, I've got East Midlands here. East Midlands, we've got Rob Marsden and Liz Silver. And for Eastern Region, we've got Drew Milne elected. It will need to be reopened with 1 seat for a woman. Thank you very much.
On the DS.
The national member.
Oh, sorry about that, yes. How could I forget that? Okay, so the directly elected section, I shall read out in alphabetical order. So the following have been elected: Kerry Abel, Toby Absey, Matthew Cagill, Joya Coppola, Mary Cross, Liz Davis, John Duveen, Stephen Hall, Guy Harper, Yasmin Mather, Sharon McCourt, Pete McLaren, Joanna Ramiro, Barbara Siegel and Pip Tyndall. Thank you very much.
Accepting that report, please show. Anyone against? That's overwhelmingly accepted.